Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. I just realized that tomorrow is daylight savings time, or I should say tonight. So it's fall back, spring ahead. So we set the clocks back, which means we get another hour, and it's totally going to screw up all the animals, including me. And you, I'm sure. But just a reminder that the clocks go back. We get an extra hour of sleep, maybe, tonight. Let's see what I want to say. Oh, I received an article from a subscriber. And let me just get it for you guys. Okay. So the article is: a federal jury in Louisville, Kentucky. And just for the record, my name is Lorraine. I moved from Manalapan, New Jersey, 52 Sutton Drive, in a home that I lived in for 30 years as original owner, and I became targeted there. And yes, the Manalapan Police Department lived literally within walking distance of me, and they were absolutely involved in my targeting, falsifying reports, targeting their own police officers. Yes, that's a story for another day. I do have a video on my channel about that police officer that filed a lawsuit against the Manalapan Police Department, former Chief of Police Michael Fountain. And it was determined in the lawsuit that the former Chief of Police carried around files with dirt on all of his police officers to use against them in the future. And I guarantee that it wasn't only on his police officers, because he had a keen interest in targeting the divorced single women in the neighborhood, including me and my neighbor down the block, who doesn't exist anymore. She had 2 daughters. She moved away. And then she passed away. But anyway, so targeting follows you wherever you go, depending on what community you're in, depending on who you are, your age, your assets, who placed you in the program, how many people are involved. Your targeting may or may not be like mine. If you own property, your targeting is going to be very different than if you live in an apartment. Okay? So nobody's is more or less. It's just different, and it increases over time. So a lot of newcomers to my channel are claim to be newly targeted 3, 4, 2 years. Trust me, in 10 years from now, your targeting will be completely different than it is now. And imagine going through what you're going through now for 10, 12 years. And there are people that have been going through it for 20. And the police are always involved. Not all of them. See, some of them are privy to certain information about the individual, because when your name pops up on their software, there's a code next to your name, because you are a non-investigative subject, unless of course you've committed some crimes in the past, have been in jail and all that stuff. Then they probably have different codes, and I don't know. But yes, all targeted people have a code next to their name. How do I know? Well, a lot of whistleblowers have come forward. And also, when I lived in Manalapan, New Jersey, a friend of mine, Sue Ann, obviously she's no longer a friend of mine, by her choice, we had been friends for a long time, and she had a very interesting background. So she worked at a real estate company. She was a volunteer firefighter. Her father was a retired cop. Her brother was a retired Marine or something like that. Like, she's got a whole... and the best is that she's a certified death investigator. I don't know the exact title, but she investigates the crime scenes and the blood spatter patterns to make a determination of how an individual has passed away. She sets up the crime scenes and all that stuff. Okay? So this is somebody who knows her stuff, right? So one day I text her, I said, you know what? I think that I'm a targeted person. She says, well, why do you think that? And I said, because my house gets broken into, the cops aren't doing anything. I said, I've taken so many photos, I've filed reports. And she said, well, what's your zip code? Interesting question, right? I know her for years. She doesn't know my zip code. But anyway, give her my zip code. She says, After a long pause and stuff, she says, well, how about I come over later and, look at your photos? I said, sure. She comes over, the usual chit-chat, go over to my laptop, my computer, bring up the photos. And I know that if anyone in the world knows anything about this stuff, it is her. She's got laser focus eyeballs. She's an Aquarian, For all you Aquarians out there, laser focus. I was watching her as I scrolled my photos past. My deadbolt striation marks, the door frame pulled away, the paint torn off, all the marks and everything. And you could see her just staring at them. And then suddenly, she's quiet. And then she turns to me and she says, who did you piss off? I kid you not. Who did you piss off? Okay, I'm a victim of multiple crimes. But here's the gaslighting. The projection that turns it around as if pissing somebody off warrants home break-ins, thefts, vandalism, directed energy weapons attacks, trespassing, as if pissing someone off warrants this, okay? But she looks at it. She knows exactly what it is. With her background, she knows that this wasn't some little drug addict down the block. This was a professional job. It was done by people like her retired father, for instance. So yeah, she turns to me and she says, well, who did you piss off? And I was stunned. I was shocked. And of course, I told her at the time about what was going on with my feral cat colony and stuff. She says, well, you should probably sue them, But anyway, there you have it. So here you have a volunteer firefighter who knows about the secret program. She knows how it works. And I actually never heard from her again after that. I contacted her because the Manalapan Police Department falsified a report saying that I went out to dinner with her. I went out to dinner with her and returned within an hour. When that was fake. That was false. I went out to feed my feral cats at the time and didn't return for 4 hours. And I contacted Sue Ann. I said, Sue Ann, could you get me a copy of your credit card bill to show the date stamp, the time stamp of the bill? She said, oh, I don't have it. That was a crock of BS. You know why? Whenever we went out to eat, and there are people like this. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. She would put it on her credit card, and then I would pay her the cash so that she could get the points. Doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, it could have been reversed, but it doesn't matter to me. So it was on her credit card. And I think it was American Express. And American Express is fabulous. They date stamp, they time stamp all of their invoices. And Sue Ann, fanatical about bookkeeping. Literally fanatical about her bookkeeping, impeccable and all that. But no, she didn't have the receipt anymore. And she had no way of getting it. So for anybody out there that doesn't think that there are people out there that are all in on it, that will deny there's a program. Obviously, Sue Ann knew that there was one, that I was in it. She wasn't going to tell me anything other than the question. So she gave me a heads up. It was a blessing. Who did you piss off? Okay, so here we go. Friday, November 1, 2024. I'm going to read this article to you. A federal grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, I'm in Kentucky now. I'm not in Manalapan, New Jersey anymore. I moved in 2019 to rural Kentucky, and the targeting does follow you wherever you go. We can talk about that another time. So today, convicted a former Louisville Metro Police Department, LMPD, officer for violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor during the execution of a search warrant, March 2020, that led to the tragic passing of Taylor in her home. And you may all remember this. This was all over the news, Breonna Taylor. Brett Hankson, 46 years old, was convicted on one count of civil rights abuse. Count 1 charged him with depriving Taylor of her constitutional rights when he fired 5 shots through a bedroom window that was covered with blinds and a blackout curtain. Jury found that Hankson used a dangerous weapon in the commission of the offense and that his conduct involved an attempt to kill. Although his shots did not strike Taylor, Hankson was found not guilty on count 2, which charged him with depriving 3 of Taylor's neighbors of their constitutional rights by firing 5 more shots through a sliding glass door that was also covered with blinds and a curtain. Today, Brett Hankson was found guilty by a jury of his peers for willfully depriving Breonna Taylor of her constitutional rights, and the Attorney General Merrick Garland said his use of deadly force was unlawful and put Ms. Taylor in harm's way. This verdict is an important step toward accountability for the violation of Breonna Taylor's civil rights, but justice for the loss of Ms. Taylor is a task that exceeds human capacity. This defendant is being held accountable for his willful and heinous use of deadly force that endangered the life of Breonna Taylor, said Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Breonna Taylor's life mattered. We hope the jury's verdict recognizing this violation of Ms. Taylor's civil and constitutional rights brings some small measure of comfort to her family and loved ones who have suffered so deeply from the tragic events of March 2020. And we hope that communities use this moment to say her name and to engrave on their hearts the minds Breonna Taylor's life and enduring legacy. The Justice Department will continue to vigorously defend the civil rights of every person in this country to be free from unlawful police violence. According to evidence at trial, during the execution of the warrant at Taylor's home, officers knocked on Taylor's door and announced themselves as police at approximately 12:45 a.m. No one answered the door. I can't imagine why. I mean, most people are asleep at that time, right? No one answered the door, and the officers saw no indication that anyone in the home was awake or had heard their announcement. The police then rammed the door open, and Taylor's boyfriend, believing that intruders were breaking in, fired his handgun one time at the officers, 2 of whom fired back, hitting and killing Taylor. Hankson was not one of the officers who fired from the doorway. He fired separately from the side of the building through a sliding glass door and a bedroom window, both of which were covered with closed blinds and curtains. Evidence showed that several of Hankson's shots passed through Taylor's apartment, piercing the interior walls, and narrowly missed a young couple with a 5-year-old child living next door to Taylor. Other shots flew over Taylor's head as she lay on the floor of her apartment. At trial, numerous law enforcement witnesses testified that officers are trained never to fire their weapons at a target they cannot see. Officers who were on the scene for the execution of the warrant and others who responded later testified that Hankson violated LMPD training and principles of law enforcement when he fired blindly into the crowded apartment complex. The commander of LMPD SWAT unit, who responded to the scene shortly thereafter the shooting, testified that he was, quote, in shock and disbelief, unquote, when he learned that Hank Ison had fired into the covered windows in Miss Taylor's home. The jury also heard from the neighbors who were nearly hit by Hankison's bullets. Hankison will be sentenced March 12, 2025. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. 2 other LMPD officers remain charged in connection with a search warrant executed at Taylor's home. And former Detective Joshua Janes, 40, and LMPD Sergeant Kyle Meany, 35, are charged with federal civil rights and obstruction offenses for their roles in preparing and approving a falsified search warrant affidavit. Did you hear that? They approved a falsified search warrant affidavit that resulted in the warrant that led to Taylor's death. A trial will be set for a later date, and they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Oh, yeah. Another former LMPD officer, Detective Kelly Goodlett, previously pleaded guilty to conspiring with Janes to falsify the affidavit used to obtain a search warrant for Taylor's home and to cover up their actions after her death. A sentencing hearing is scheduled for April 25, 2025. The FBI Louisville field office investigated the case. Special Litigation Counsel Michael J. Songer and trial attorney Anna Gottfried of the Civil Rights Division's Criminal Section prosecuted the case. So, targeted people out there, there is sometimes justice. So here you have it. They falsified evidence. Here, evidence. They falsified a search warrant. They all went along to get along. They falsified an affidavit used to obtain a search warrant and to cover up their actions after her death. So, moving on. Well, let's go back to Manalapan, New Jersey. And I don't know where the video went. I don't know if it was reported or YouTube took it down or whatever, but there was an update. It was an update just a few days ago. I know, because I commented on it. So, but I'll read the original to you guys.
We respond to it.
I'll read the original to you guys. This is New Jersey Exposed YouTube channel. Manalapan Township, New Jersey, child predator cop was arrested for SA a 16-year-old girl, 9/3/23. Well, there was an update. He was literally charged. He was going to prison. And I wanted to read it to you to show again that there is justice, and it's gone. Again, I don't know if the update is reported. I don't know if YouTube took it down. I sent him an email to ask him what happened to the, where did it go? Oh, well, let's see. Oh, he's going to do a new one. Oh, okay. I just got a response. Was too long-winded. I'm going to do a new one. I got some more inside information on him. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait because, let me just tell you this, guys. Okay, so I lived at 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, in a home I lived in for 30 years as the original owner. It was called Northfield Estates. It was a lovely, lovely neighborhood off of Craig Road. When you drive down Craig Road, all the way down Craig Road, and then there's this little road that veers off that takes you to the Manalapan Police Department. Right next to the Manalapan Police Department, to the right, you're facing the police department. To the right, within walking distance, is the Manalapan High School. Generally, high school kids are 18, 19 years old and under. Right? I think when you get there, you're maybe 14 or 15, and then when you leave there, you're 18 or 19. Literally next door. So, Manalapan Township, New Jersey, child predator cop was arrested for sexually assaulting a 16-year-old girl. What happened was, there's something called like Night on the Town or whatever. Let me just get the story. I'll read it to you because I don't want to infringe on his video here. New Jersey cop sent explicit messages to teen he met at a community event. This was August of 2023. A police officer was arrested Wednesday on allegations that he repeatedly sent inappropriate messages to a teenager he met at a community policing event, Monmouth County Prosecutor Raymond Santiago said. Kevin Rudiski, 46 years old, this was last year, patrolman with the Manalapan Township Police Department, is accused of sending the 16-year-old girl sexually explicit messages and photos on social media after meeting her at town's national night out. Okay, let me just tell you guys he sent her photos of his wee-wee, of his pee-pee. Yeah, of his penis. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? You know, his little wiener. Okay, he sent photos of his wiener to the 16-year-old girl. Now, I don't know, guys. I remember when I was 16 years old, I probably would have ran into a closet and hid. if some copper sent me photos of his weenie. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, I was a prude back in those days. So anyway, so that's what he did. And this was during a community policing event. I mean, what was he thinking? It just totally baffles the mind. And it's called National Night Out Event. So evidently, meanwhile, look at that. The criminals, they just got rid of my screen. It just disappeared. Totally disappeared. But anyway, so it was on this policing night out. So he's texting her these sexually explicit photos of his wee-wee. And, I mean, let's face it, you're 16 years old and he's a guy with a badge. What are you going to do? He calls her to come into his police vehicle, right? And he's groping her and all this stuff. So anyway, I don't know how he got found out. Yeah, the criminals got rid of everything I was looking at. My entire screen, everything totally disappeared. They don't want you to know. All gone. I'll show you. Look. And look at this. Chrome just disappeared. My entire screen, everything just disappeared. So anyway, there is an update. There's an update, and the guy's going to jail. He's going to prison. This is what happens, you know. I don't know, guys. I mean, you cannot have a guy on the police force who does these things, and the Manalapan High School is next door. They had to do something. I mean, they certainly cover up a whole bunch of other things, like the break-ins to my house, the moving in of their paid informants around us, you know, their gang stalking activities, you know, the little hockey club group of criminals at the Manalapan Police Department. But they also have this guy that likes 16-year-olds. Now, I don't know. Why doesn't he just get onto Match.com or something and meet somebody a little bit closer to his own age? I don't know. He's risking his career. He just risked his career. And, you know, while the Manalapan Police Department is known to target divorced single women living alone, evidently they have some morals and values, and they don't like it with one of their own get caught with a 16-year-old. And they're prosecuting the criminal. So anyway, and yes, so they don't want me talking about it. That's okay. I'll talk about it again when I get the update, because look, all of my tabs are gone. Let me see if I can pull them back up again. I've got to go back to Chrome. All of the tabs that were open are gone. The article that I was reading, gone. They just took down everything that I was reading. They don't want you to know about it, but that's okay. We'll be discussing it again, because I lived at 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, within walking distance of the Manalapan Police Department who falsified incident reports. They like to target single women living alone. And yes, when my friend Suan, a certified death investigator, came to my house and viewed the photos of my home breaking in, my doors and stuff, you can tell she knew who did it. It wasn't some common person down. It wasn't some teenager. She turned to me and asked, "Who did you piss off?" Isn't that amazing? Just baffles the mind. But yeah, so I just pulled it back up again. He was a patrolman with the Manalapan Police Department. He's accused of sending the 16-year-old girl explicit messages and photos on social media after meeting her at the town's National Night Out event. National Night Out is an annual community outreach event attended by law enforcement officers from around the country and local civilians. The national event's website says it aims to make it aims to make communities safer and more caring places to live. Rudiski was in his uniform when he met the girl at the event and let her sit in his patrol car, authorities said. In the days after the event, he started contacting her on social media despite her repeated warnings about her age. She told him, I'm only 16. I'm 16, officer. I'm 16. He then pulled her over when she was driving on Route 9, where I lived, unlawfully handcuffed her, and attempted to kiss her while his dash cam and body cam were turned off, officials alleged. That a sworn member of law enforcement would begin to so egregiously violate the public's trust while in uniform at an event specifically intended to strengthen trust between law enforcement and the public is, in a word, unconscionable. And now it's freezing up again. It's all freezing up again. Well, yeah, you know what else is unconscionable? Manalapan targeting divorced women living alone because you wanted my house from one of your copper buddies. Huh? Yeah, to a tune of $300,000 of vandalism to my home that was completely renovated from top to bottom. Bunch of jealous, pathetic losers that you are. I will never shut up about it. And I'm so glad that one of you guys was caught red-handed. I'm sure there'll be more. I remember when I went there to file an incident report, and I'll just say it off the record, you know, I'm a woman, you know, I'm a single woman, and some of those guys are very good looking. I go there at night, one of these cute little coppers is sitting there, and he's looking on his desktop, and there is a guy on his desktop with his shirt off. He looks like a male model, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, why is he looking at... It didn't click, you know. I went there to file an incident report, and I'm thinking, well, I would think that, you know, if the cops are there alone, they'd be looking at, like, sexy women. But no, they're looking at sexy men instead. Now, I don't know if it was because they like sexy men instead of sexy women, or if they brought it up just because I was going to file an incident report. But either way, they made a point of mentioning that it shouldn't be on their desktop. And they switched it off while I was there. They put their emblem back on the desktop. And I thought to myself, these coppers are sitting here looking at sexy men. Like, who am I to judge, right? I like to look at sexy men. Don't you women like to look at sexy men? Okay, so they were bored and they were looking at sexy men until I showed up to file an incident report, right? So yeah, so this sworn member of law enforcement violated public's trust while in uniform at an event specifically intended to strengthen trust between law enforcement and the public. It's unconscionable. It's also unconscionable to target senior citizens, Manalapan. It's also unconscionable to test your directed energy weapons on the public without their consent. Yeah. It's also unconscionable to protect your buddies. It's also unconscionable to not report the crimes taking place at my house, not publishing them into your police blotter. When you post everything in your police blotter. Yeah. Everything. And my screen is just frozen up again. Chrome is not responding. It's the stuff they don't want you to want me to talk about. That's okay. I'll bring it up again so that I can get the whole message out here. Because, yeah, so I'm not going to stop talking about Manalapan and what they do to people. And this is just the icing on the cake, right? Just one. This is just one bad apple. And don't tell me about there's that song, One Bad Apple Don't Spoil the Whole Bunch. What, Michael Jackson sung that song about one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch? One bad apple does spoil the whole bunch. Because that was one of their buddies. You mean to tell me that they did not already know what he was about? This is just like a surprise, just a big surprise. It was that he got caught. It was that the girl finally spoke up. It was that he turned off his body cam. Come on. Guilt. Guilt, guilt, guilt. But anyway, my screen is totally frozen up. I can't get back in here. It says Chrome is not responding. I'm sure it'll respond just fine after I post this video. So anyway, yeah, so we've got somebody convicted here in Louisville, Kentucky, and the FBI got involved. Good for you, Merrick Garland. Applause, applause. It's about time. I may contact you directly, actually, because I've got some news for you. I do. And I may actually present a whole bunch of news from New Jersey to Kentucky. See how you handle it. It's long overdue. And maybe it's just time. But anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Exposing one criminal at a time. And look, check it out. Look. There you go. Oh, wait. It just stopped. It just stopped. Let's see if I could read some more. Okay. Authorities have also alleged that after the victim refused to give Rudiski her address, he unlawfully looked her up in the law enforcement database before parking his patrol vehicle outside the residence. Oh my God, he's stalking her. The men and women of Manalapan Township Police Department are and should be held to the highest moral and ethical standards, and it troubles me that the actions of one individual can stain the reputation of all of us, Manalapan Township Police Chief Edward Neese said. Oh, really? Perhaps I'll start reading my letters to you, Mr. Chiefo Edward Neese. We are deeply saddened and disturbed that this victim had her trust betrayed by a man wearing one of our uniforms. Rudiski has been charged with endangering the welfare of a child, official misconduct, computer theft, hindering apprehension, stalking, and false imprisonment. He's also been suspended from his job without pay, Neese said. Well, Edward Neese, you are the new chief of police. You were a captain when I lived in Manalapan, and I have written you several letters, none of which were ever responded to. And I reported your lieutenant, your sergeant, a whole lot of things to you, and you never did anything. Why is that? Yeah, you wiped clean my digital recorder when recording your officers, and you wiped clean all of my porch cameras. That's right. Yep. And there was never a search warrant of my house. I never received one. You know, at least Peanut's father, Peanut the squirrel, at least there was some fake search warrant. I never received one. But yet my house was searched anyway. You know what was stolen? You searched one of my closets in an extra room, and you stole all of my photos for my insurance company of all of my antiques that were covered under a separate policy. Right? You know that $1 million umbrella policy that I had? covering all my antiques, and you stole the folder. Never got it back. That's right, Edward Neese, the new chief of police. They're all in on it. They all know what's going on. But hey, at least one of them's going to prison. Maybe there'll be more. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, signing off for now. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow and get the message out there. And leave your comments down below. I appreciate it.